Hey everyone, ready for something a bit different today? We're going to dig into this really fascinating idea from Nietzsche. It's about wholeness, but not like just inner peace. You know,
Yeah.
Nietzsche, he takes it somewhere completely different.
Yeah, it's interesting. Nietzsche kind of flips the script. Instead of telling us what wholeness is, he starts with what it's not.
Uh,
And he does it with this idea of the weak personality.
So someone who's not like mentally strong.
Not exactly. It's more about, how to put it? There's a mismatch between their inner spirit, their content, as Nietzsche calls it, and their actions, the form. He actually uses this really intense image, compares weak people to eunuchs.
Whoa, that's pretty strong imagery.
It is strong, but it gets the point across. It's about a lack of, well, potency. Like you have this inner potential, but you never actually do anything with it. Nothing gets created.
So I'm getting, it's not just about having willpower or being positive.
Hmm.
It's about like actually doing something with that inner
Yeah.
sphere, putting it out there.
You got it. For Nietzsche, wholeness can't just be this internal thing. It's gotta be about action. Your actions have to line up with who you really are, what you truly need deep down.
So, like, how does this play out in our lives today? Are we all in danger of being these weak personalities Nietzsche's talking about?
I think it's something we should all think about. Are we really going after things that reflect us? Or are we just, chasing approval and achievements that don't actually mean anything in the end?
That's deep, man. It makes you really think about everything you're working towards and if it actually matters.
And that leads us to another huge part of Nietzsche's wholeness idea. He separates true needs from pseudo-needs.
Okay, so what's the difference? Help me out here.
Right? So pseudo-needs.
Mm.
Think of those as the stuff society pushes on us. Like, we gotta be rich, famous, powerful, but it's all about what other people think, right? And you just end up constantly chasing and never satisfied.
Like junk food looks tasty, but it doesn't actually nourish you.
Perfect analogy. Now, true needs, on the other hand, those come from deep inside you. They're about your unique talents, what you're passionate about. That's where your real genius comes out, where you become the, as Nietzsche says, the helmsman of your own life.
So instead of getting swept along by what everyone else wants, you're the one steering the ship.
Exactly. You figure out what really fulfills you, what lets you be you and create something meaningful in the world.
This is starting to sound pretty empowering. But hold on, how do we even find these true needs? There's so much noise out there, it's gotta be tough to hear yourself think sometimes.
It's a journey, no doubt. And Nietzsche gives us some clues on how to navigate it.
Laid it on me.
One big one is this idea of becoming necessary.
Becoming necessary. I like the sound of that, but what does it actually mean?
It means you don't just let fate push you around. You take charge. You decide what your life's gonna be.
So it's not about accepting whatever happens, but like actively shaping your own path.
You got it. By going after your true needs, making your actions match your purpose. Nietzsche says you become a force to be reckoned with, a piece of fate, yourself.
You know, it's like when you experience a great piece of art or music, you just feel like it was meant to be, like it had a life of its own.
That's a perfect example. Nietzsche talks about this with music, how it's like a piece of fate that comes from this deep need to, like, heal language and bring back genuine feeling.
Wow. So you're channeling this inner drive, this creative energy, and it creates something bigger than just you, something with a real purpose.
Exactly. And This is where Nietzsche takes wholeness beyond just your own mind. It becomes about action, fighting for something bigger.
So it's not enough to just feel peaceful inside. You gotta take that energy and do something real with it.
You're catching on. It's not passive, it's dynamic. You gotta face the challenges, wrestle with the tough stuff, and try to make life better, both for yourself and others.
You're telling me to embrace the struggle, not run from it.
Embrace it. That's where the growth is. That's where you create something truly amazing. And to illustrate this, Nietzsche points us to, well, Goethe.
Goethe, the writer, what's he got to do with wholeness?
To Nietzsche, Goethe, he's like the poster child for striving for wholeness. He didn't shy away from the hard stuff, he actually went looking for it. He called it striving for totality.
So he wasn't afraid of those parts of life most people try to avoid.
Not at all. He saw those as chances to grow, to become something more. He even had this phrase, joyous and trusting fatalism. He believed if you aligned yourself with a bigger purpose, you'd become, well, essential, necessary for good to happen.
So he wasn't afraid of fate. He embraced it, knowing if he followed his true path, he'd make a positive impact.
That's the idea. And isn't that a powerful message for us all? We're not just leaves blowing in the wind. We can choose to be the captains of our own ships, shaping not just our lives, but the world around us.
This is blowing my mind, honestly. It's like Nietzsche's wholeness isn't some stuffy philosophy. It's a way to live, to have a life with real purpose.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to unpack in Nietzsche's vision. It makes you think, right, this whole becoming necessary thing, it's like it connects to Nietzsche's idea of the will to power.
Oh yeah, Nietzsche's big on that. But I don't quite see how it fits with wholeness.
Well, for Nietzsche, will to power isn't about, bossing people around. It's about mastering yourself, pushing past your limits to become the best version of you.
So it's about pushing yourself, reaching your full potential, that sort of thing.
Right, and it's in that struggle and overcoming those obstacles that you find true freedom, according to Nietzsche. Not freedom from things, but the power to create your own life.
That's a different way to look at freedom. It's not about having no limits, but having the strength to break through them.
Exactly. It's about becoming the author of your own story.
Okay, so we've talked about action, about true needs, and becoming necessary, but I'm still kind of stuck on how to tell the difference between those true needs and the pseudo-needs we talked about earlier. It seems kind of like up to each person, right?
Yeah, it's not always black and white. But one way to think about it is, where is the need coming from? Is it something you genuinely want, a passion? Or is it more about what other people think, needing their approval?
So if I'm always worried about what others think, trying to get likes online or keep up with the Joneses, those are probably pseudo-needs.
Sounds like it. That kind of stuff often comes from insecurity, feeling like you're not good enough. You end up chasing things that never really satisfy you.
And true needs, they're about being your real self, expressing your unique talents and stuff.
Exactly. It's about doing things that make you feel alive, that push you to grow and help you make a real contribution to the world.
Alright, so how do we cultivate those true needs? Can we just, think really hard and figure out what we want?
Thinking about it helps, but you gotta do something too. Experiment, try new things, get out of your comfort zone and see what clicks.
So it's not just sitting around thinking, it's about going out there and doing things, finding out what really speaks to us.
You got it. It's a process of exploration. And as you try things that align with your true needs, you'll start to feel this, flow. You'll be totally absorbed, energized by what you're doing.
Yeah, like when you're so into something, time just disappears.
Exactly. That's a sign you're on the right track, doing something true to yourself. And that's a big part of finding wholeness.
But it's not all about individual fulfillment, right?
Yeah.
Didn't Nietzsche say wholeness is about something bigger than just one person?
You're right on the money. Nietzsche believed that true wholeness is about understanding how we're all connected and contributing to something bigger than ourselves.
So it's not just me, me, me. It's about using my talents to make a positive difference in the world.
That's the gist of it. It's about finding your place in the grand scheme of things and working towards a shared goal, a common good.
This sounds pretty idealistic. How do we balance personal fulfillment with this need to contribute to something bigger?
It is a balancing act, but I think it starts with realizing that our personal happiness isn't separate from the well-being of others.
So my own growth and happiness are tied to the well-being of my community, of the world as a whole.
That's it. We're all part of this giant ecosystem. What we do affects others, whether we realize it or not.
So by working towards my own wholeness, becoming the best me, I'm actually helping to create a more whole world around me.
Exactly. It's not about sacrificing yourself for others, but realizing that our individual well-being is wrapped up in the well-being of everyone.
Whoa, that's powerful stuff. It means that by taking care of myself, pursuing my own happiness, I'm actually making the world a better place.
You got it. It's recognizing that we're all connected and working towards our own wholeness makes the whole world more whole and harmonious.
This is inspiring, but also kind of intimidating. Achieving this kind of wholeness, becoming a piece of fate, contributing to something bigger, it seems like a huge task.
And it's a challenge, no doubt. But remember, Nietzsche believed that the struggle itself is how we grow, how we find meaning. It's in those tough moments, those times when we resist, that we discover our true strength.
So it's not about avoiding hardship, but facing it head on, knowing that those difficulties teach us the most.
You nailed it. By facing those challenges, wrestling with the tough stuff, both inside us and in the world, that's how we create a truly authentic and powerful life.
So it's about finding that balance between personal fulfillment and connection, embracing the struggle, but still finding joy in the journey.
You said it perfectly. It's about holding those seemingly opposite ideas together, weaving them into a life that's both meaningful and fulfilling.
This has been eye-opening. I'm seeing how this idea of wholeness can be applied to so much in our lives.
Yeah,
Our goals, our relationships, our role in society.
that's the beauty of it. It's a concept that can guide us in so many ways, making us ask ourselves the tough questions and strive for a more meaningful life.
But there's no single right answer, right? Everyone's path to wholeness will look different.
Absolutely. It's not about following some rule book or reaching a predefined state. It's about embracing the journey, the constant process of becoming.
So how do we start down this path? Are there any practical things we can do to help us along the way? This is really making me think. Okay, so where do we even start?
Well, like we said before, figuring out those true needs, that's got to be step one.
Sounds easy enough, but I'm guessing it's tougher than it sounds, right? Especially with, everything going on in our lives.
You're not wrong. It's not like you just do it once and you're done, but start by paying attention. What really gets you going? What makes you feel like truly alive and engaged when you're doing it?
It's that thing we talked about before, right? Where you get so lost in what you're doing that time just flies by.
Bingo. That flow state, that's a pretty good sign you've hit on something real, something authentic. Don't be afraid to try things, even if they seem kind of out there.
So it's not enough to just think about it. We got to get out there and actually do stuff, see what sticks.
That's the spirit. And as you do those things, you'll start to see patterns, right? Like themes that tell you about your true needs, what's really important to you, what you're passionate about.
Like solving a puzzle. Each thing you do adds another piece, and eventually you start to see the bigger picture of who you are and what you should be doing.
Exactly. And the clearer that picture gets, the more you understand your true needs, the more you can make your actions match them. That's where you start to really take control, become the piece of fate, like Nietzsche said.
This goes back to what we were talking about before, about how wholeness isn't just about you, it's about something bigger, right?
Absolutely. So while you're figuring out your own true needs, you gotta also look at the bigger picture. Ask yourself, how can I use what I'm good at, what I love, to help something greater than myself?
It's like everyone has their own instrument to play, and when we all play together right, we create this amazing harmonious music.
I love that analogy. And just like an orchestra needs a conductor, Nietzsche thought humanity needs people who embody wholeness, who can lead the way and inspire others.
So it's not just about finding my own air path, it's about helping other people find theirs too. Creating a world where everyone can be whole. But that sounds really hard.
It is a big test, no doubt. Takes courage, resilience. You got to be willing to face those things that keep us divided, that stop us from being connected to ourselves and each other.
It's like we all got to work together. Right?
Yeah.
Everyone has a part to play.
You got it. And by supporting each other, sharing our experiences, we can make those individual efforts stronger, create a real movement towards a world where wholeness can actually thrive.
So it's not just about Emmy being whole, it's about creating a world where wholeness is possible for everyone. That's a powerful idea.
It really is. And even though it's going to be messy sometimes, Nietzsche reminds us that those challenges, that's where we grow. That's how we become the best versions of ourselves.
Man, this whole conversation has been a trip. From eunuchs to pieces of fate to this whole vision of a world full of wholeness. My head's spinning.
It's been great exploring this with you. Hopefully you're feeling inspired to keep going on your own journey to wholeness. Don't forget, it's a lifelong thing, always discovering and growing.
And maybe we'll even write a symphony or two along the way. But for now, gotta wrap it up. Keep asking those tough questions, keep striving, and keep embracing how complex life is. If you want to dig deeper into this whole idea of facing your inner demons, check out the song Head Like a Hole by 9 Inch Nails. It's a powerful tune that really gets at what we've been talking about today. Thanks for listening, everyone.